So once you're in that car, we're going to talk about, before I even take off, one of the big skills that new drivers need to consider is stopping and how long it actually takes for you to stop your vehicle. There are certain things that go into stopping a vehicle, and it takes a bit of practice to see good judgment and realize how much room you need to stop your vehicle. But we're going to go into what are the things that affect a stopping time and distance, the distance that it takes you to stop your car.
There are several factors that affect braking distance.
So with stopping, few drivers know how much time or distance it takes to fully stop your vehicle, especially as a new driver. So as a result, they may make errors in judgment and could lead to a collision if you're not stopping or applying that brake early enough and giving yourself enough time to get your vehicle into a full stop. And this is starts on page 50. If you flip to page 50 of your driver's guide, there's a good chart down there, and it highlights the three main factors that contribute to it. And in the video, he talked about perception time. So that's the first one. That perception time is how long it takes for your brain to recognize a situation, understand that you need to stop. So in the image here on the slide, those vehicles are the split second. It takes about 3/4 of a second, I believe. Yeah, it takes about so less than a second it takes for your brain to realize, oh, there's a truck up ahead, I need to start stopping. But within that 3/4 of a second, your vehicle could have traveled a certain amount of distance depending on your speed. So just remember, perception is how long it takes you to recognize that you need to stop or make a change or an adjustment to your vehicle. And as he had mentioned, your perception time can be affected by a lot of different things. How your level of attention, like if you're really paying attention to the road, if you're a little bit distracted. I know that I have a little one in the back seat, and sometimes when she's making noise or crying or something like that, that can definitely take my attention off of the road sometimes. So if you have other passengers in the vehicle that are talking to you, that sort of thing, if you're kind of adjusting the radio, of course, cell phone use is not prohibited when you're driving a vehicle, because that definitely takes your attention off of the road. So the level of attention that you're paying to the road can really impact how quickly you react to something. Also, your decision-making capability. I mean, when you're a new driver, you're often not as confident, or you second guess yourself a little bit. So that second of you like, should I stop? Shouldn't I? That can impact the time of when you start applying the brake. The experience of the driver, of course. Sometimes even proactive driving, when you're looking ahead, and if you say you saw that truck down the road before it even got in front of you, and you started applying that brake way earlier because you knew that truck was coming by the speed that they were coming at. So you were already well in advance and prepared to stop. So that can have a big difference too of the experience of the driver. Usually, the more experience you have, you can actually start to assess the other drivers around you in the environment that you're in, and you can usually start to predict what other drivers are going to do. The degree of fatigue, so how tired you are, can definitely make a big difference on the perception time. If you've had a lot of coffee, or especially if you're night driving and your eyes start getting sore, that can definitely impact how your perception time. Also, use of alcohol or drugs, or even not even illegal drugs, even prescription drugs. There's some prescription drugs out there that can make you drowsy and can have an impact on how quickly you can perceive. So the second factor that plays into this is your reaction time. And the reaction time is the time that it takes you to physically react to that danger of or get your body to react to the fact that you need to start applying the brake. So like it says there, when you physically move your foot from the gas pedal to the brake pedal, that can take 3/4 of a second. So your perception time was your brain realizing you need to stop. The reaction time is your body physically responding by moving your foot off of the gas onto the brake. And that can take 3/4 of a second as well. So now we're up to what, 1.5 seconds, but depending on your speed, your vehicle could have traveled quite far in that time. And that's also why you don't follow too closely. Like in this vehicle, he's really close up against that other vehicle in front of him. And if that vehicle in front of him were to slam on the brakes really quickly because, say, an animal jumps out, looks like they're on a highway or something like that, and if they're going at 100 kilometers an hour on a primary highway, he would not have enough time to stop his vehicle because the vehicle in front of him is already a few seconds ahead, where they saw the danger, they applied the brake, they perceived it, they reacted to it, and now the guy behind him, he only started realizing he needed to brake once he saw those brake lights in front of him. By that point, it's usually too late. By the time he moves his foot over, he's gonna end up hitting that vehicle because he's so close. And the last thing that goes in, the last factor that goes into your total stopping distance is your braking time. So that's how long it takes for the vehicle to come to a complete stop. So this is usually the longest time of your braking time, or of your total stopping time, is the getting your vehicle from the momentum that it has and the velocity, and especially heavier trucks. If you're in a bigger, heavier truck, you need more stopping time versus like a small little car, a race car. Those can stop a lot quicker and with less distance than a big truck, because that all depends on how heavy you are, how fast you're going, and your reaction to it. So the distance traveled in this time is called the braking distance. But all of those factors together, your perception time, number one, your reaction time, and the braking time, when you add all of those distances together, it will equal your total stopping distance. And as we can see, on this chart is in your driver's guide, it shows you that that bar is the total stopping time for your vehicle at different speeds. So the yellow is your perception time, the blue is your reaction time, and the red is your braking distance. So you can see the red is definitely the longest time frame, but it increases the faster you're going. So at 30 kilometers an hour, you can, because you're going so slow in your vehicle, you can stop pretty quickly and with less distance. But as you go up into 50, 80, 100, 110, that stopping distance greatly increases because how fast you're going plays into a big part of how fast you can stop. So, and there's also additional factors. As the guy in the video said, that's under ideal road conditions. So say you're in a situation where the condition of the roadway is not ideal, like snow, rain, sleet, ice, even sometimes you don't even see the ice. Like if it's raining and it's a little chilly that day, it's not winter, but say you're going into fall and all of a sudden there's some ice on the road you didn't know because yesterday it was clear and fine, that can play into a big factor into how fast you can stop. Also, your level of alertness, as I kind of talked about already, how much attention you're paying to the road, how tired you are, those can definitely adjust how long it takes you to stop. Your vehicle, definitely newer vehicles with like fresh new brakes and fresh new tires, they can stop a lot quicker than vehicles that may have less tread, so they have less grip on their tires. They have maybe your brakes need to get fixed, so the tension on them is a little loose and they're not stopping the way that they used to. So that you need to you need to pay attention to all those factors that play into your vehicle and your situation. The vehicle speed, as I had mentioned, and on that chart, the faster you're going, the more distance you need to stop. Condition of your vehicle's brakes and tires, like I mentioned, and all of these factors work in combination to determine your stopping time and distance. So on a regular, nice sunny day, when you're driving around, your stopping distance could be whatever it is for that time. It's not so bad. But then the next day you're going out there and the road conditions aren't so good, and your tires are getting a little worn out or something like that, and then you realize you tried to stop that same amount of distance, but your car didn't react as good as it did before. So then you'll realize, oh no, I definitely need to adjust to that, and I need to start braking sooner. So all of those things play into your stopping distance, and it's really important to keep people safe. Like I said, for rear-ending people, for stopping for pedestrians, and for your own safety in your own vehicle. You don't want to get into a collision because that creates a lot of headache. So as a driver, you must attempt to adjust to or modify for these factors to avoid a collision. Braking techniques. So there are a few different main braking techniques that most drivers go to. When coming to a stop, you must begin braking early, like I said, and do not leave braking too late, of course, because then you're in a scary situation where you're trying to stop your vehicle really quickly. So it's always just better to be prepared to stop earlier. You can always speed up if you need to, but it's a lot harder to slow down when you're already in a situation where you're coming up to an intersection or something like that. Ease off. So when you are intending to brake, you ease off the accelerator, or that's another word for a gas pedal. Your gas pedal is your accelerator. So ease up on that in advance, apply that brake to reduce your speed. And it's always better, even if you don't know if you're going to stop yet, say you're coming up to a yield sign where you're like, you see that yield sign, you know you got to slow down a little bit. You might have to stop or you might not. You still want to slow your vehicle down to put yourself in the best position to come to a stop if you need to, right? Say there's a kid just around the block and he's hidden behind a fence or a tree and you can't see him, but you're coming up, as long as you're approaching that intersection nice and slow, say that kid ends up running out, you're in the best position to stop quickly because you're slowing down. You're already prepared to stop versus just flying through that intersection and then trying to stop in an emergency situation. To brake smoothly, you ease off on the brake pedal slightly and then reapply pressure on the pedal just before you come to a stop. So you'll notice once you start practicing driving, you have to really feel out the vehicle's brakes. They all react a little bit differently. But to put that brake pedal on, you definitely don't want to just slam it right to the floor because you're going to end up jerking your car a little bit, and it's usually not the smoothest way to do things. So what you do with your brake is you apply some pressure, take your foot off a little bit, and adjust to make sure that your vehicle's slowly reducing its speed, and then eventually come to a nice stop. Also, if you slam on that brake really quickly and you got some passengers, they're going to get jerked around and could just be for an unpleasant drive. But it just takes practice of feeling out that vehicle and seeing how it reacts to the brake. So as you can see in the image, that's your ideal foot position. You wouldn't have your full foot on it. You usually use the top or the balls of your feet to apply the pressure, and and then you would have your heel on the floor as you apply that brake, and use your foot kind of as a little lever as you're pushing on that brake. So another technique for braking, that's just generally when you're in a good situation and you just have to come to a normal stop. But there's situations where you might be in like an emergency, like I said, you need to respond quickly. So one technique is threshold braking. And threshold braking basically means that you would want to use that when you need to stop quickly. And it means that you put the maximum amount of pressure onto the brake, but not too much that it locks your brakes, or locks your wheels up. So that's easier. It's easier to visualize what a threshold braking technique looks like versus just explaining it. So I'm going to switch over to a quick little video to show the technique of threshold braking. So yeah, you don't want to lock up your tires. Like you said, sometimes maybe in mud or snow, that might be good. But for the most part, you want to have complete control of your vehicle. And if you lock up your tires by slamming on that brake too quickly, and you need to actually steer away from something, that's not a good situation. If you apply that brake too quickly, you're not going to be able to actually move your tires. So it's fine if there's nothing in front of you and you just need to stop really quickly, but sometimes you might have to avoid like an animal or something like that, or swerve away from another vehicle that's in front of you, something like that. So the threshold braking is usually the best technique in every situation because you're applying enough solid pressure to bring your vehicle to a stop, but not so hard that you end up losing that control of your vehicle. And so there's also, we'll talk more about other vehicles that are equipped with the anti-lock brake system. So he was referencing that in the video. He kept saying he disenabled his ABS. You wouldn't want to do that. Like most newer vehicles are equipped with an anti-lock braking system so that, say you did need to slam on that brake really hard, usually newer vehicles will still allow you to have that control with their anti-lock brake system. But sometimes older vehicles, they're not equipped with that ABS system. So it's always helpful to also maybe look at your vehicle's owner manual and see if it does come equipped with an ABS, because that can really contribute to you having to make those split-second decisions of your vehicle and what's the best braking technique to use for your vehicle.